Okay, so this afternoon I'm going to talk about alternative approaches to valuing health outcomes. And I think it's important, these are interesting, but it's important to emphasize that far and away the dominant approach currently is using QALYs. It's really the way more popular and widely used. This woman, I would like to say I met her in Berlin, but I didn't. But I was walking past a bus shelter or something. I think it was a bus shelter in Berlin. And I was struck by the messaging. Shopping is better than a psychiatrist. And it sort of put me in mind that, QALYs were measuring something really quite specific. We're defining health in terms of some particular description, maybe EQ5D, and we're focusing on mobility and things like that. But actually, maybe there's some wider concept out there that's rather more important, and this just put it in mind for me. It also made me think of my daughter, not so much the appearance, but the message. I think I think she gets good therapeutic value from shopping activity, particularly when I'm paying. Right. So, the dominant approach, QALYs, but let's leave them aside just now. Let's now concentrate on two other approaches. One has been, in a way, an obvious approach from an economic perspective, and that is to use money to value health outcomes. And the second approach, less obvious perhaps from an economic perspective, but quite popular in recent years, and some of the researchers have been economists, looking at well-being and life satisfaction. So let's work through these two. Now, first of all, monetary valuation of health benefits. There are a number of reasons why you might want to investigate monetary valuation. And most of these reasons are to do with the limitations of existing cost-effectiveness measures. One challenge with other measures of cost-effectiveness, things like cost per QALY, cost per life year gained, cost per fracture prevented, cost per disease-free year, you name it. All of these measures have a particular challenge associated with them, and that is, how much should we be willing to spend to get the benefit? How much should we be willing to spend to avoid a fracture or to avoid a stroke? Or how much should we be willing to spend to gain a life year or gain a QALY? Now, if you do things in money terms, you're there already. You've got the money valuation. So that's one reason. Another argument for looking at broader forms of valuation, such as monetary valuation, is that typically health services produce benefits other than just changes in health. And the QALY might be quite good at measuring the change in health, but what about these other benefits? Can it capture the other benefits? And arguably it can't. So it focuses purely on the health part. If we take a monetary valuation approach, in principle, it should be able to value a wider range of benefits. And the final argument why we might want to think of embracing monetary valuation as an approach is that for some purposes, we want to make judgments about the benefits we can get from health investments as compared to the benefits we can get outside the health sector, investing more in education or investing more in environmental protection or investing more in transportation infrastructure. Now, again, the quality is not very helpful. If we're looking just at health, maybe the quality is all right. But once we start looking at other sectors, there's a very clear limitation of the quality. So there are basically three approaches to monetary valuation. First one I'll look at briefly is described as the human capital approach. Then the second one, equally briefly, I'll look at is revealed preferences. That's studying actual behaviour. And the final one, which I'll spend a bit more time on, are stated preferences, where you're giving people hypothetical choices and asking them to value something. So you're not observing the behaviour, but you're asking them, how highly do you value something? Okay, human capital approach. It's actually got a very long history. You can find some works that have essentially espoused a human capital approach many, many years ago. Essentially, the human capital approach is focusing on changes in productivity. So it's looking at individuals as if they're machines. And if the machine is broken, it doesn't produce. If we repair the machine, it produces. If the human being is broken, we mend them. Doctors, there's other ways of mending. We were discussing yoga at lunch. There's spiritual approaches, but medicine could be seen as mending the human machine. And one consequence of mending the human machine is they become more productive. And so could we not value the health gain that we've achieved in terms of that increased productivity? That's the sort of simple, or you could even say simple-minded approach. In some ways, it's slightly distasteful thinking of individuals as machines. But, it's not a very big but, you can see some argument that one of the benefits of a healthier population is that they will be more productive, and we will make, as a society, we'll make better use of our scarce resources. So it's not at first sight very appealing, but it's not without some grain of insight, I guess. It's easy to describe it as we'll measure the health benefit by the change in productivity. In practice, it's slightly harder to implement. Measuring productivity and changes in productivity is not as straightforward as you might first think. One reason is that frequently we work in groups, we work in teams, and identifying one individual's contribution is quite difficult. If you think of a world of sort of artisans producing objects which they then sell, the healthier cobbler makes an extra pair of shoes per day. He or she can sell that pair of shoes and get some money. And so if we can get the cobbler healthier, we can see a direct link to selling more shoes and more money. But that's not really how the economy works for many people, or at least in developed economies. I guess in societies that are still predominantly agrarian, there might be a more direct link. But even then, I'm not very sure. We do so many activities as humans together, it's really quite difficult to separate out the contribution of one individual. I know it's really difficult to think what my productivity is. I haven't a clue. How would I go about measuring it? Now, no, I wouldn't even speculate. I hope it's positive. So that's one challenge. But it's more difficult than that. Even if we can measure people's productivity, we need to do more than that. We need to be able to attribute changes in productivity to the changes in health. And that link is also perhaps not always straightforward. So there's some measurement challenges, but of course there's more fundamental problems here, and that is we don't just value improvements in health because of the change in productivity. If we did, all these elderly patients, why bother? Actually, maybe in Japan differently, because I look around and I see some quite old people apparently engaged in productive activity. I don't know. But actually, more broadly, we don't just value improvements in health because it changes productivity. We're maybe glad the improved health improves productivity, but that's not the only source of value. And the final criticism is that if you really did embrace the human capital approach, it has undesirable consequences for groups who are already disadvantaged, because it's using the marketplace to judge value. And of course, the marketplace is full of discrimination. And every society, women, for example, are paid less than men for doing the same job. Probably every society has some ethnic groups it discriminates against. And age, we probably have in most societies age discrimination of one form or another. And so if you're going to judge people's value by what they produce, and you've got an unfair society that makes it hard for some people's production to be valued appropriately, you're just adding to your problems. So I would not recommend the human capital approach, but it exists and has been in the past occasionally used. And as I say, there is a grain of validity in it that one aspect of health improvement that we might sometimes value is the change in people's productivity.